Today's daf is daf lamed vov, and we were discussing here the different names. When it comes to a shvua, you have to invoke Hashem's name, and we said even something like Rachum the Chanun, because you mean the Hashem, who is the Rachum, who is the Chanun, and so on. And then we're talking about we said in Shir Hashir, every time it says Shlema, Shlema is referring to Hashem's name. And then we said that except there's one pasuk, Karmi, the pasuk that the vineyard is mine, and that you should only keep a small amount for yourself, is and we said Messiah, a sixth is the night to pay for people learning Torah. There is talking about Shlomo. Shlomo gets to keep 1,000 people working for him, and 200 separate have to be sitting and learning Torah. And then the Gemara said that also some people say that that's another pasuk that is considered chayil is hine mitoshi shel shleimas shishim gebayim. So Shlomo had 60 gebayim. That's talking about Shlomo HaMelech, not the Eibishter. By the way, there's a pshat here that shishim gebayim was talking about the Birchas Kainim, which you read in this week's parsha. It's made up of 60 letters. Yedvarecha till the Kilchaneka is 60 letters, and this represents the 60 Gemaras of Shas. The word gon, we say somebody who knows the whole Shas is called a gon. Gon numerically equals 60. So Shlomo Melech had the 60 numbers, the Torah Shabbat Peh, surrounding him to protect him. And then we asked, Shmuel seems to be learning that it's all the way around. When it says that 1,000 are serving and 200 are guarding the page, it's all the way around. That 1,000 are serving Shlomo Melech, serving Hashem. Shlomo is serving Hashem. And only 200, that means the majority should be learning Torah, only 200 should be working for the government, for the Malchus. So we say that there's that Shlomo, that Shmuel holds that the one who says that the pasuk Shlomo is what do you call it? Is Chayil, and the other pasuk is actually Kodesh. And not he agrees, but he argues. So we're up to the Gemara here. Says the Gemara. Kol Malchaya, we're about 10 lines from the bottom of the page. So we just explained the Gemara we learned yesterday, and we're continuing still on the same thing. Kol Malchaya Amurim Adil. When we say Shlomo is the Abish's name, we're talking about according to Moshe Shar, not everybody, of course, Moshe Shar. We're not talking about you're not allowed to erase the names. We're talking about if you say that the Shlomo of Shir Hashir, make you swear that you don't have any testimony for me, that is called a Shua, the proper Shua for carbon Shua. Every time it says the word Malchaya, king, in Daniel, referring to is Choyel Chutz Mezesher Kodesh. The only time it's referring to Nebuchadnezzar. The only time he say that's referring to the Eibush himself is when he says Ant Malcolm Melech Malchaya. The Melech of Malchaya, that of course is referring to the Eibush himself. You could have gone when he said that the kingdom is protect you and is good for you. Melech Malchaya, that's referring to the Eibush to himself. But everywhere else in Daniel, Malchaya is referring to Nebuchadnezzar. The Yeshreim Avza Kodesh. Now others say there's another pasuk in Daniel which is also Kodesh. It says that Mordei Bashat had his bad dream, so he called him. He says Mordei Chalma. He says the master of the dream. L'sanacha, the dream is Mordei, my master Chalma l'sanacha. The dream is for your enemies. Upshad al and I'll interpret it against your enemies. Now who's referring to? He's talking about if he over here Mordei means my master, he's talking about Nebuchadnezzar. He's telling Nebuchadnezzar that it's your enemies, which of course who are the enemies of Nebuchadnezzar? The Eden. And he's helping Nebuchadnezzar Chas v'Shalom against the Eden. Mining Yisrael, Melech Kalayl Yisrael is cursed Eden. So therefore, it must be talking about that it's referring to over here is the Eibishter. The Tanakama, who doesn't agree, who says that this pasuk is referring to Nebuchadnezzar. So, but he says, Soini Yisrael Lika, Soini Aguchalek, he doesn't have other enemies besides Eden. He has many enemies, and therefore he's referring to other enemies. Okay, then we had in the Mishnah it says the kol kinuyin. We also said that any word that's a kinu, we had a machlekes Rameir and the chachamim. If you swear in kinuyim, whether it's considered a shvua, kinu is like one of the other names, sort of like nicknames or euphemisms. And the chachamim say it's not included, and Rameir says it is. And then we have an argument regarding if you curse your parents. Again, with the Abish's name, Rameir holds all the kinuyim are included as well, like rachum, v'chan, and edech, hapayim, v'chesed, and the chachamim say yapater. Says the Gemara further. Ramino asks a question. It says in the pasuk, "Yitain Hashem." They're talking about a site. It says the Abish. It says, "Yitain Hashem oichol la'olol l'shvua." Hashem should give you for a curse and a shvua. Ma tamud leim. But why do you need this pasuk? Well, the Kranema it already says, "V'hishbiya hakoyin." We know that is about. Why do you have to say it again? B'shvua sa'ola l'fishanema. So v'hishbiya hakoyin zishva shvua sa'ola. Why is that? Must be the extra time that it says over here Shavuos because it says regarding Shavuos Aegis. Totally unrelated to Satan. It says it says that you listen to the koil of an Allah. Now we don't know what Allah means. It says that the Shama koil Allah and Yagid and so on and so forth. Who yada. So how do we know it's talking about a Shavuot? So we're learning out from Satan because there's an extra pasuk there where it says Allah l'Shavuot. We just like over there by Satan Shavuot. I've gotten Shavuot. Mal alam b'shem. Just like over there, it says Hashem. So the Eibush is I've come b'shem. So that's how we know that it has to be the Chamhol. That has to be the Eibush name. So the Gemara. Amar Bais Baye. So the so what's Pshat in our Mishnah? Our Mishnah says that you can use any name, and here for this price it says clearly only Hashem's name. Amar Bais Kasha says Abaye. It's not a question at all. Hod Abba Chanina Barida, Hod Abba Nasach Machleki the Barida, Chanina Barida, and the Rabban Tanya. What does Chanina Barida say? He says, Hoyel v'Amra Taida. The Taida in certain places says Hishava. Like it says, Shavuos Hashem Tiyeh Bein Shnei. Something you have to swear. And sometimes it says, Al Tishava. I don't want you to swear. It says, L'tziz b'shmi l'shakir. I don't want you to swear. But some places it says, Kalil. Hashem will, give you a curse if you don't keep the heat of Taida. And some places it says, Al Kalil. You're not allowed to curse Hashem. Chas V'Shalom, you're not curse your friend. So if we have a positive and a negative, must be that the dinim are similar. In what way? Ma hashava b'shem. Just like when it says you have to swear. Rab Chanina holds that you have to swear. The Abish's name is af loy tishava. When it says don't swear, it's also talking about b'shem with Abish's name. So who holds that it's only the Abish's name that you can use when it comes to shua, not all these other names? Is Rab Chanina baridi. Ma kala b'shem. Af loy kala b'shem. Just like kala b'shem, certainly like kala b'shem, but Rabbanon. What Rabban hold? Let's understand the Rabban. If they learn out Gzeira Shava, they hold also the Gzeira Shava that you learn out Ola, then they buy Shem Yuchat, and you forget about Kinuim. Even other names, Kima of that, it should be good because Yitin Hashem, only Hashem's name is good. And then immediately, so if they don't learn Gzeira Shava, then Allah, the Shvua, who, how do they know when it says over here that Vishama Koil Allah by Shavuos Eidos is talking about that one, the Teveya makes a Shvua? How do they know? Says the Gemara, Nafka they learn out from El Tanya. We learned Allah ain't Allah Shvua. The word Allah itself, what's the title of the word Allah? Some say Allah is a curse, but Allah is also a form of a Shvua. It says in the pasuk, it says over there by Saita, and the kohen makes the woman swear Shvua so Allah. So we see that Allah is a Shvua. So Gemara, what are you talking about? On the contrary, says the Gemara, Hasam Shvua so Allah. It says the word Shvua and Allah. Okay, the Shvua of a curse. So that's a Shvua. Over here it says only V'Shama Koil Allah by the Eidim who refused to hold back the witness, the testimony. I don't mean the Shvua. This is what it means. Allah, ain't Allah b'shvua. Allah is only shvua. That the word Allah itself is a shvua, and we bring it out from the pasuk. V'hishbia hakoyin as the isha b'shvua so Allah. And we're continuing here. How do you know? Okay, so we have shvua. How do you know that shvua she'enim Allah? Okay, shvua she'yashim Allah. How do you know that even without a curse, it's a shvua? Talmud leime v'shama koil Allah. It says here by the witnesses, they heard, it should have just said, V'shama Allah. Why does it say the actual word koil, the sound of an Allah? What does that mean? V'shama Allah, V'shama koil. As there's two kinds. There's an Allah and there's a koil. And therefore, it could have just said V'shama Allah. It comes to tell you, the extra word koil is to tell you that that either a shvu on its own or an Allah on its own is considered Shavuos Eidos. Rabu says, how do I know the word Allah actually means a Shavua? Because remember, by Shavuos Eidos, all it says is V'Shava Kol Allah. How do you know it means a Shavua? And if you're not going to learn Gzei Shavua from Saita, so then you can say that any name of Hashem. If the only way you know from a Gzei Shavua, like Chanina Baridi, from Saita, then obviously it's only limited to Yukevavke, no other name. And since we hold that other names are well included, so obviously we're not learning for Saita. So we're learning. So first we said, because it says Koil Allah, to tell you either Allah or Koil. And Babu says, It says, "Haino Allah tzal mishvur." Shnei, it says the pasuk. It says the pasuk about Yahweh. Yahweh oiseh ba'Allah that and Nebuchadnezzar made Tzidkiyahu swear that he wanted to reveal what he saw about Nebuchadnezzar behaving despicably. That Tzidkiyahu did not abide by his own shvur and he rebelled. He made a shvur and then he went and revealed it. So therefore, what we see from here, that the word Allah means Ashur. Why? Because it says over here, all I know is that Nebuchadnezzar had an arrangement called an Allah, and then it said that what did he do wrong? He rebelled, he what do you call it? He did not follow. He betrayed Hasher Hishbiu. Where do you find that there was a shvur between Tzidkiyahu and Nebuchadnezzar? All we found was an Allah. That proves that Allah is a shvur in its own right as well. So the Gemara, we learned utter boy, or the word utter has a few meanings. Utter means boy, do we putting someone in chedim? And so you have to know the context to know which one it is. Boy klola, utter can mean curse, and boy shvur, utter could also be a form of shvur. Boy needed, where do you find that it's needed? Let's see if it's pasuk. And it says over there that morais should be cursed. And that the Mal says mother should be cursed. And why? Because they don't want to help the Eden out. So we see the word utter means curse. And then it says Omar Hashem Oidoi Utter Yeshua. So Omar Malachim Oidoi Yeshua that Oidoi should be cursed. And its inhabitants, they don't want to help the Eden out. That when the needed help, they didn't want to come to help the Eden out. So therefore, they did four and the shayfa, they put them in chedim. So we said the first thing is utter means nidri. Put them in chedim. That's what they did to morais. By klal, the word utter also is a curse. To see what it says. So the first one is nidri, putting in chedim. The next one is utter is a curse. To see what it says the eliyam of a klal, the following should be a klal. See utter isha sheyasa pesa. So we see clearly the utter is a curse. Those people who make avodah zarah. Boy Shvua also is of Shvua the Chsiv. It says the pasuk by Yishba Yeshua be'esahi lemer utter ish lifnei Hashem. That Yeshua made a shua, then there should be the curse of the person that takes from that will ever rebuild Yericho again. So we see that the word utter can mean three different meanings. Says the Gemara, how do you know it's a word that Yeshua only said the word utter? Maybe Ashbi Inu Vilaitinu. Maybe he made a shua plus he cursed. So how you know the word utter itself on its own means that. From here, when Shalom made a shua that nobody should eat at all that day, what happened when Yonasan wasn't aware of it, so he ate. And all it says is utter. And Yonasan Yonasan not hear what his father did, and he was going to get punished. Now, where does it say that his father made a shua? All it says is utter. So he was again, but here also he did two things. Maybe utter on its own is not a shvur, it's not a word of a shvur, but utter on its own means curse, literally, not shvur, like you said, yeah. So the Gemara, Ashbiinu Latino more says mixi doesn't say the utter. If he swore, it would say and he cursed. Hashud also and therefore because it says only the word utter on its own. It says later that Yonasan did not abide to the shvur, and we find no emes of a shvur. It must be the word utter itself. Is a curse, but with a shvur. Hashud lahachi. Now that you said because of above hasanami like utter. All these other places, I'll answer the same answer. It doesn't say and he cursed. You want to know how do we know by Yeshua, by Yerichai, that there wasn't a shvur together with a curse? Because it doesn't say the utter, it just says utter. So that's all he did was he said utter, and yet that's considered a shvur. Amen. The word Amen is by Shvua. Amen has in it itself also a number of connotations. By Shvua, somebody says Amen is after a Shvua, is tantamount to him saying the Shvua himself, like we had before. By Kabbalah's Dvorim, it's also that I'm accepting whatever you say. Or you say I'm doing this a condition so and so, and I say Amen means I'm accepting it. And boy Hamanaz Dvorim. And also that and the way Rashi learns, if somebody gives you, if you want to daven or someone says a prayer, and you should say Amen to say that I wish that it comes true. Boishwood, if it says Amen. She says, the woman says Amen, Amen. Just 1 second. I don't remember exactly, but it says it's for him. I just popped my head, so it says it's for him. But when a woman says Amen, Amen, These are the three brachas. Why is it twice amen? So we learned in halach, amen the shvua zeh, amen the shvua achet, because gil the shvua. It says also the three mitzvahs of a woman are included with amen. I know Mem is Mikra Megillah and Nun is their what do you call it? Hanukkah. I can't remember what. Oh, and the third amen is Arba Kaisis. Aleph. Aleph is Arba Kaisis because these are the three things we say Afen Hoyibay Sanes, and they have Shemalevi says that they have to do, and that's the word amen amen. And the women took upon themselves the Afen Hoyibay Sanes. So it's Arba Kaisis, Mikra Megillah, and Ner Chanukah. So if you want further. Okay. Says the Gemara. Right. Sorry for the interruption. So the Gemara continues that the word Amen has three different meanings, says the Gemara. In the middle of Lamed Vav, in the middle of the page. Amen, Shua, Dechsiv, Amen, Ish, Amen, Amen. By Kabbalah, the one most accepting the Sivit says, Ora Shalok, Sivit says, last as I saw, Amen, he'll answer Amen. By Hamonos Dvarim, also we accepting whatever he said. The Sivit says, by Yemi Yima Navi. Yima Navi said, Hananya ben Azoid, who was a false Navi. And he giving all these wonderful optimistic prophecies. He said, Amen. Ken Yas Hashem, Yakashet Varecha. Amen is, I hope that your tefillah becomes true, comes true. Amar Rabbi says, Lav Shvua, Hein Shvua. Rabbi says that the Hein and Lav are both Shvua. What do you mean? We'll see in a minute. If he says twice Lav or says twice Hein, that's expression of a Shua. Bishleim Lav Shua. How do you know Lav is a Shua? The says Hashem said by after the Mabul, Liyoy the Maim the Mabul. There shouldn't be any more water in the Mabul. He says that the water of the main Noach that I swore. How do you know that Hain is an expression of a shvua? So when it says svaru, it's a logic. But the lav, if I say never again, is a shvua, then Hain, that I will, is also a shvua. Amar Rabba says, Rabba, when is a shvua? You have to say twice. Never, never. One never is not considered a shvua. It says positive. It said that what I will never cut anybody off from go through mabul. With the lav trezim, it says twice lie. I won't ever do it again. And since lav he requires twice, la is heinam mitrezim. Hein also is twice. When it comes to cursing, I don't care what name you again, the same thing. Is Yechayev in the names of Hashem and Chacham Paitim. They say only the names that are in Mechakim. So the Gemara, I thought I learned, Ish, ki yikala lakov, a person is a magade, v'nosach, that he carries a sin. Matam b'lema. What do you have to say that for? Well, the Kvainemer says, v'noikim, shem Hashem, ma'ishumas. Anybody who enunciates the name of Hashem, and curse the name of Hashem, will get killed. Because Yachol yechayiv, al Hashem, yuchtav l'va. We thought you only chayiv on Yukevavke. Menayin the Rabbi says, haino to be marba other names that you use for Hashem, including we said, Racham v'chanon. Tam b'lema, ish, ki yikal elokov, mikol makir any name. I'll say we agree that you're not allowed to curse from any name, but when are you chayiv misa only in shema miyuchad, only yud kevavke, and ala kenuyim bazar the rest of the names is only a lav. It says alakim loisekal, but there you don't get killed. But mekalal of the ima, somebody curses the parents, man, and here's any name you use of Hashem's name when you're cursing your parents. Man chachamim. Who are the chachamim? That's Menachem Bar Yosi. That's the view of Menachem Bar Yosi. It says in the pasuk, "Benok for shame yumas that when you use Hashem's name, you get killed. Matam le Meshem, limit ala Makalov. If somebody curses his parents, and they curse them with the Abish's name. That's why it says Benok for shame. What else does it mean? Shame. Shame is the Abish's name. Then we say if you curse yourself or your friend, then any name is also. He says, this is according to everybody, that if you makal your friend or you makal yourself, the chesiv it says Raki Shamelcha, it says Raki Shamelcha Shmoy Nafchamoy. You should take care of yourself. And cursing yourself, therefore, you not take care of yourself. So whatever says, so in other words, you only get a lav here. The Chaved it says how you not curse your friend because it says Lezakal Chedesh. And below from there that anyone who's a member of your nation, you're not allowed to curse. But that you don't get killed for, that you get a lav. Then if you say to them, you say to the Edom, no, you invoke psukim of Teicha and you say that this should happen to you. And so if you don't give testimony, Zuhi Allah Haksuva b'Taita. That's the Allah that's written in the Taita, because he's quoting psukim the Taita, cursing. And therefore it says Shama Kol Allah, and the Edom heard of Kol Allah includes these psukim of the Taita that you're using against them if they don't give you, help you out with the Edis. Yosef kind of came out of Yehuda, kind of sat before Yehuda, but Yosef come and he said, he said the following Mishnah Kitnan. He learned the Mishnah exactly the way the Mishnah was written, where it says Yakecha, and he's sitting and talking to Rabbi Yehuda. So it sounds like he's cursing Rabbi Yehuda himself because he's using the words Yakecha and so on. Amalei said, "Do me a favor. I don't feel comfortable. Kana. So why don't you change the word in the Mishnah around? Instead of Yakecha, say something Yakehu, talking third person." Yosef, when the person said before, now the same story repeated itself when Avkana was the teacher, and there's a Talmud in front of him. Yosef come and he said the following pasuk from Tehillim, where it says, "Gam al yitotzcha lenetzach." He said he won't destroy you forevermore, and yachtocha v'zachecha me'oil, and he begged you don't do that again, and also he shouldn't throw you out of the oil v'sheroshcha b'chayim sela to uproot you from this world. And Avkana felt uncomfortable. He's talking to him directly. So he said, "Amalei Kana. Do me a favor, and when you say this pasuk Tehillim in front of me, don't look at me, or change the words around a little bit. What do you need two stories telling you the same thing? I would have thought, I would have thought only the Mishnah you have a right to, okay, it's the Mishnah, you memorize the Mishnah, but you change the words around. I will be cray, but when it comes to a pasuk, to tamper with a pasuk, you can't tamper the pasuk. You don't tell them change the pasuk around because I feel uncomfortable. Yes, you can. In the shir you can. You tell him, you say, look, you won't get hurt, you won't get it, and so on and so forth if you do this. But if you give me the Aedis, as if to say, but if you don't give me the Aedis, then these terrible things should happen. So the question is, do we say, it seems from the Mishnah, we say, Miklal, Lav, at the Shemei Hein. This is what happened when you don't do anything wrong. If you do something wrong, so we say Meklal Lav Remain. But it says in Mishnah that Meir is want to hold, he say Meklal Lav Hein. And yet we know all over Shas that Meir does not hold of that. The famous Machlekes of Meir Chamim, if you need a Tanai Kafel. Meir says you have to spell out a Tanai. If you do this and this and this, then this is going to happen. But I have to spell out that. If you don't, like Moshe Rabbeinu with the 2.5 tribes. If you do this, then you'll get your share. If you don't do this, you won't get your share. No, you have to spell it out. We don't say Miklal Lav Shemei Hein. We don't rely on any of those rules. So how can our Mishnah say you do? So the Gemara, doesn't hold to that. So was he right? Swap the names around. The Meir is the one who says that it's positive because we don't make this conclusion, we don't draw conclusions. How does he do? He also he learned the Mishnah exactly what it says in our Mishnah. The Meir is the one who holds Miklal Lav Shemei Hein. Our Mishnah's version says that, and the Chiyos Rabbi Yisrael came along and he learned the same way. That's how it's supposed to be. No Elikasha, so the question still remains. So we'll answer. Key less late, but when it comes to money matters, the May says we don't do the Klal Lavat Shemahain. I will be Yisura Isla. When it comes to Yisurim, when it comes to Yisurim, which is talking about here, like a Shavuos Daf, which is an Isur, there he says we do make inferences. The Klal Lavat Shemahain. Gemara, how do you say to the Yisuda? Say to the Chanisa, why does it try to say Hinoki missing a yud? Time and Hinoki only because it says Hinoki without a yud, so we read it as if it says Hinoki. It says in the passage in loisotis. If he didn't do anything wrong, blah blah. It doesn't say, but if he did do something wrong, what happens? So therefore, he said it's not enough to say Mekal Lavan Shemei Hein. You have to have a diet of missing a yud. It's Hinoki, it's strangled and so on. Here's not dinimaminus, and yet we say that that you do say klal laba shemei so therefore, you just said that the is the one who says that by other things but everyone else disagrees. See clearly that by the Chachamim also hold here that you say Mikal Shemei by Yisur. So the Gemara Ella Eifo Afilu be Suda Leslie. Now what? You're right. Rab Meir hold you're Eifo. We have no choice but to take the Mishnah and learn. Rab Meir is the one who learns that is Potter because he does not agree with the principle Miklal Lav Atash Mehein, not only by Dini Mamonis but also in Dini Yisuri. Pray the Gemara Maskar Ravina of Yisur Leslie. You tell me Yisur Rab Meir does not hold of Miklal Lav. El Miyata tell me it says Shtui Yain Peridosh to be Misa. Right? It says here that they can't, go into the base of Mikdash, Misa, and the Chai Misa, Hachinami, the lesser that I made, and I made a whole of it. Now we learned Elush of Misa, the following get Misa, Shtuya Yain, Upruish. It just says you won't die if you don't come in this way. And how do you know you will die? Only by inference. So the Chaybi does hold. You do say Miklal Lavat Shemei Hain by things which are not Dinim Ominous. I'll say by money that be made whole that you don't say that what we take a tefach, and by money he holds you don't make inferences. Easter hold you do like shtuya yain. So how come you say tefach here when it comes to Saita? When it comes to by Shavuos Daf, and by Saita we say we do say inferences. So he says shiny. Sorry, if he holds that you do say by Easter that made is made you do say meklal lavat shemei hein. Therefore, that's how we know shtuya yain echay misa from meklal lavat shemei hein. And you're swapping it. So how come by Saita we say that we need a pasuk hinoki or chinoki when we believe that anything outside the mamnus we do say meklal lavat shemei hein. So asking mother, shiny Saita, these studies by my new Saita, there's money involved in the world, Ksuva. And therefore there may would hold there we need the pasuk chinoki. If not for the pasuk, we wouldn't make the inference. Because if it's tied to money already, then we say that Shavuos Daf is not considered tied to money because it's really all about a carbon. If they withhold Daf, they bring a carbon. There's no money changing hands here. Hadn't a lot of Shavuos Daf. So now we're going to the next word. Shavuos HaPekadon. Naheg is the same language as before. Naheg about make men and women unrelated, whether they're kosher witness or not, in front of Bezin, not from Bezin, whether they swore themselves. The pasuk only talks about themselves, but also before they shove to Shavuos Daf. Ain't the chayiv at shechron of bezin. May holds only chayiv if you do from a bezin because he holds the Shabbos doin mina umina. You have to learn exactly like Shavuos Daf, which is talking from a bezin. The Chachamim say bein b'piyatza bein b'chedim kima shekafa b'chayiv. I don't doesn't have to be from a bezin because they hold doin mina umuki ba'asra. And since by Shavuos the Shavuos that he makes on his own is not from a bezin, so too the mush b'chedim is not from a bezin. The chayiv azon Shavuos is chayiv is b'meizi. Or it has to be made. He has to know that B'shas Ma'aseh that he's swearing false. But a shegi tyrus, he didn't know you bring a carbon asham, or he didn't know that it's an aveda. Ain't the chayv shegi alone. If he didn't remember that he had the deposit by him, then it's like an oinus, and he's not chayv. Umar chayv al doina. What is the chayv? Asham. B'keser shkolm. An asham has to cost more than a chatas. It has to be 2 shkolm. Shavuos HaPekadon case. What's a shvur? Amal, he said to tell him to go and give my pekadon back. She has to be able to have you. Shvur shein lebiyadi, and he says, no, I swear I have nothing. Or he says it on his own, I have nothing of yours but me. The other guy says, this is a case of I make you swear. Amal, amen. Harei zechayv. These cases chayv. He's be all of chomish pamim. He made him swear 5 times. Bein bifnei bezin, bein shaloi bifnei bezin. And he denied it. Chayv kalach v'achad. One denial, is chayv like 5 different shvuos. Why? Why here you chayv 5? Last time we learned by Yeshua's Eidos, if he did 5 shuas and he denied once, he only chayv 1. If he did 5 shuas outside of Bezin and 1 in Bezin, I'll tell you, after every time he swore, he would have been murdered. then that's it. He would owe a carbon for that, and then he swears again. So it's as if he five disparate shvuos. Five people demanding from him, tell one because he gives up a carbon that you have. One carbon. Even though the five people, he made one shvuah, it's chai one carbon. If he spelled out, I have nothing for you, I have nothing for you, chai for each one. He has to add the word shvuah at the end to make it like five shvuahs. And Rav Shimon says, I don't have to say loy loch. He has to say shvuah loy loch. And I'll explain what's going on. Tell me pekotin, give me my pekotin, which was my loan, Gensel, my stolen item, I demand four things. She asked me to have mine. And he said, I swear I have nothing. It's one shvur. Even though you demanded four things. But if he says shvur, pekotin, I don't have that, I don't have I don't have the loan, Gensel, each one. Tell me give me back my barley and my spelt that you have. Shvur, he said, I have nothing in the one. Shavuos if you swear I don't have any itemized with the three Shavuos. That made I feel I'm a chita even said only one kernel of wheat and one barley and one spelt, which is less than a ship. For each one. If he says, okay, we'll stop over here. We'll continue tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Have a good